That was the reaction when Trent Alexander-Arnold scored the winning penalty.
There's no need to see that.
Oh, it's nice to see people being happy.
They weren't happy, they were being idiotic.
What? Being idiotic.
How can you be happy when you've just watched that pile of crap?
Because you're through, you've done it, you've got to cross the line.
If this is the tone of the show, I'm going to leave.
Welcome to the beginning of that show.
I tell you what, let's open up with some bunch of English fans
celebrating.
We're going to show Dutch fans.
It's nice.
Celebration will be short-lived.
The celebration, of course, is after eliminating Switzerland. They made hard work of it, as they have done every game so far in this campaign. 1-1, it would be Switzerland who would open the scoring quickly. England, though, would get the equaliser to force extra time, which was a complete and utter non-affair. In the end, England converted all 5 of their penalties, which means that they advanced to the semi-final to face the Netherlands, as we welcome in Mario Malchiot. More on the Dutch victory against Turkey a little bit later on in the show. But let's kick things off on a positive note, shall we?
Yeah, well, come on.
Another semi-final for England, Macca.
It's a long 24 hours, isn't it? But yes, I'm thrilled for England. I'm thrilled for Gareth Southgate. There's nice subplots. Bukayo Saka scored a penalty when he missed one. Trent, of course, who I thought has been treated terribly, really, by Gareth Southgate, getting the winning one. So really nice moments. But what I will say is we've been here before. They have to play better. The one thing you would say about the game now is that there's no way Gareth Southgate can start that 11 again. Mm-hmm. You know, yes,
he's back from suspension.
Well, he changed the formation, but he didn't really, did he? He just shifted the players round to the left a little bit and put Trippier further forward. That has to change. You know, England were forced to make changes because they were 1-0 down. The first shot of the game was the England goal, but they are better with more attack-minded players on the pitch, and they're more exciting. But you know, Gareth Southgate, yet again, it's, you know, as a manager, it's better to be lucky than good, isn't it? And that's how he's rolling at the moment.
It's all
England were turgid, weren't they?
Stop it!
They were horrible again.
The problem is they start copying the French, being bad and being very good in penalty shootout. So that's not. No, but we really have to go into details. You know what we saw after. It took like 51 minutes to see one shot on target from Switzerland. And it's only when Switzerland scored that Gareth Southgate started to change players and to be more offensive. I mean,
he's very reactive. He's very reactive, isn't he? He's not, you know, they made changes, Switzerland, to try and change the flow of the game. We were reactive. We're 1-0 down, and it's like, oops, you, get ready and get on.
Save us.
And then we scored straight away, and then we were actually so offensive. Then we started letting in opportunities for the Swiss again. So that has to change, because it is so frustrating when you watch that they've got the quality on the bench, yet very, very, very reluctant to use them until something negative happens.
At the moment, I am pining for a Holland-Spain final.
Just as a neutral.
I'm fed up watching the French, and I'm even more fed up watching England. I mean, French haven't scored in open play.
Yes.
Well, Mario is like a pantomime.
He's cheering for you. He's cheering for you. So they can.
Okay, yeah, it's better that he's cheering for me. I like it.
Okay.
And the Dutch better not let me down, Mario. I never hear the end of it. But in some sense, this is playing out just how we like it. Because the deeper that England go in the competition, the more the pain.
I don't know. I don't even know if the pain's going to be that bad.
When it happens, and you know it's going to happen, they're going to go out, not going to win it.
But they haven't really deserved to get to where they are. It's not as if we've been brilliant and then all of a sudden we'll come up against the Dutch and it will all fall apart.
I mean, let's look at the team selection again.
Yes.
You know, you could call it a back three or a back four. It switched from pillar to post, depending who was in possession. But you've got Konza coming in for Gay. And Konza playing on the left side. He plays on the right for Villa. At times he plays right back for Villa. You've got Trippier playing on the left and he plays on the right. You've got Saka playing sometimes as a wing back. And did this formation really help Bellingham and Foden?
No. I felt sorry for Mainu. He got dragged off, and actually he was
one of the best
very
with
good.
Sasha,
Yes, so you just don't know what will happen next. You don't know whether Luke Shaw is going to be fit enough to play 90 minutes.
And I tell you what, we've talked about Ronaldo in this show a lot, and we're not clearly not at this stage with Harry Kane, but it's a big talking point for the semi-final, you know, if he's fit.
So was it that he didn't get enough supply, or was it that he just wasn't making the runs or getting involved as much.
You know, something, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, so do I. He's not getting any supply from the left, is he? And he won't do, because Trippier wants to come onto his right foot that we've spoke about. So the crossing is going to be completely different. If Gordon's on or Eze's on and they play wide and they've got Saka wide, then he will get more opportunities. But at this moment in time, I feel sorry for Harry Kane. He looks as if he's never going to score a goal, and then he gets dragged off. He can't even score a pen.
But he's not. I mean, I suppose he never has been really, but he's not able to come short, spin in behind, give them an out ball, and he's looking even less likely to do it because he doesn't look fit. And Kanji, I mean, Kanji obviously has missed the penalty. He'll be distraught, but he had him in his pocket. Absolutely, that back line had him in his pocket, and England can be thankful that Mbolo got a goal, but the rest of his play was dreadful. His hold-up play was terrible, and actually Switzerland, when Switzerland played in these little pockets, they got 4 or 5 players around the ball and they popped it around and they switched to play. They look good, or they look better than England. And even at the end, in extra time, it was Pickford that was having to make the saves.
That corner that almost went in was something else that hit the stanchion of the post.
And again, it felt just like England were just hanging on for these penalties, which, by the way, were excellent. You have to say they're absolutely brilliant under the pressure. Bukayo Saka, who missed at Euro 2021, a lot of eyes would have been on him. That was a big moment for that lad, notwithstanding his goal. That once again, so Southgate was bailed out by
Bellingham's overhead kick.
Bellingham overhead kick, which was great. And then these changes were made, and Saka scores a bit of a wonder goal. I mean, it's literally just comes in off the post, a great strike, and that just sort of bails this manager out, because this team selection and this performance again was as expected. They're calling this the best performance of the competition so far, which I suppose factually is correct. But that's the best performance.
That's Jude Bellingham who say that.
The rest of it.
But you know what? Who has been the best overall in the World Tournament? All the fans. I mean, the fans, what they've been.
That's the worst. That's like being like Scotland.
No, but
the fans have been
English, Dutch, French. They've been absolutely fantastic. Where I want to go is how the English fan respond to that pathetic performances. Because in France, I tell you, people are very rude and bad towards the French national team. They say, "What a shame! What the bad performance it was." They don't get carried away by the fact that they went through. They say we should be out of the competition. I don't know if in England is the same.
I think most people who watch football, who appreciate football, will think exactly the same. You'll get fans getting carried away because we're in the semi-finals and we're there and we got through and we won on penalties and we exercised certain demons of the past. You will get that, but I think you will get, I think my father knows football very well. I spoke to him directly after the game. He said exactly what we were thinking. It was a terrible performance, but they got away with it. The manager's lucky because he doesn't change things. He has to wait for things to happen for him to change things out of desperation to a certain extent. So I think in the cold light of day, possibly tomorrow, because of course the time difference in England, people will go, we're through, great, but we need to be better. And that's what we're thinking about. Every time we see England, we say, they need to be better. And like you're saying with France, and if they get there in the end, brilliant. But you always expect Spain to beat them if they get to the final. And now they've got a difficult task against the Dutch. And I thought Cody Gakpo was brilliant tonight again. Direct, wants to run at people.
Was it an own goal or was it?
It was an own goal. An own goal.
That's why Southgate split. I wouldn't say, sorry, Mario.
Where's Mario? Mario wants to talk.
I wouldn't say splitting opinion. And Southgate, I wouldn't say splitting opinion.
Come on.
So where are we with Southgate?
No, we're nowhere.
Because you look at you follow some of the journalists, and it's like, well, knocked out at the last 16 in group stage, wherever it was, and then there's the semi-final, the final, now another semi-final. Where are we with this? Because is it more by chance and luck than actual coaching here?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like you look at the stats, he's the most successful England manager ever with regards to 3 semi-finals. I mean, and they've only ever been to 4, and he's led them to 3 quarters.
He has the players to make miracles. Yeah, because it's not because of him; it's because of the talent of the players. Who at some point Saka can change the game. Otherwise, because of him, they would have been out.
Yeah, correct. You have to. There's a wider context than a manager has done this type of job, and you cannot compare it to a time when we were knocked out in the qualifiers or we got knocked out against Iceland. It's years later. It's a better side. It's a better preparation. It's better at everything. When you look at Croatia, we sat here. They should have beaten Croatia. They were 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go. They dropped back. Italy at home during COVID when all of the crowds are English-based. you know, so it's been like that. The Denmark semi-final, we crawled over the line. So I think the bracket when they lost to Belgium and jumped in that side of the bracket. So
exactly.
I think he's done a great job, and I think he settled England down as a nation, and he's better than previous managers. And there was chaos when when England went away, whether it was Sven or Fabio. I think Gareth has been the right man at the right stage, but I just don't think he's the manager to give us that extra 10% to take us over the line, to change games at the right time, to play a progressive type of football.
Mario, sorry, mate. Go on.
Let him speak.
But I also think, when you look at the way England plays, because, like what Frank said, there are similarities in every country. I think, where England is going through, where France is going through, where Holland is going through the same thing. Like people are always going to have their own opinion about it. But at the end of the day, look, we're in the semifinals, so we also have to make sure that the guys that keep moving on. Maybe if they're not playing the beautiful football, because, look, coming from my country, it's definitely that they are complaining the way they play. But one of the things that I feel with England, when I watch them, especially today and all the other games, is they play safe. The football they play is very safe, and they wait. There was a moment in the first half, for example, I saw Saka going past his opponent twice, and they don't exploit it even more. And then it took them so long, and the moment when they scored the goal was the moment when he came inside, and Rice kept running on and then pulling the two players with him, and that allowed him to come inside and make that strike. But I feel like when you watch them sometimes, I feel like the key players that are in the game, I want to see everybody understanding that. And I feel like England sometimes struggle with it. Mino played a great game. Use him. And he even started to open up his mouth because he wasn't agreeing with certain things. If Saka is throwing past his play because it took him a couple of minutes to do that, then he gets that, get him on the ball. Get the guys on the ball. And those are the kind of things I feel like when I watch England sometimes, it takes them too long to really get the play that is going to make the difference and eliminate a player of the opponent team to make sure that they can hurt them. And I don't think they do that much. It's always safe.
It's safe, but you have two other teams who proved that you can play otherwise. Spain and Germany, they don't play safe, and we enjoy watching them, and we are the time that we want Spain to win, because otherwise we are bored. It's an entertainment. Yeah, you don't need to have result. Yeah, we can understand the pressure that the coaches have, but at the end of the day, we want to see something. And we're seeing Saka getting the ball and going back, or seeing Dumfries, like we saw so many times today, getting the ball and going back. It's boring. Take some risks.
Yes.
Lose the ball. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's something that has to happen.
Well, that's why I think Cole Palmer has to play, because he wants to play, but he wants to play through the lines. He wants to take chances, and yes, he will lose the ball, and at times he will be frustrating. But he's the one person who wants to drive forward and create and do something a little bit different than what we've seen. Now, all I am is frustrated because I want to see England win. I don't want to see England get to a quarterfinal or a semi-final. I've seen that numerous times. I want to see them win the game. I want to see them lift the trophy.
So this was the substitutions that he was forced. This was the formation.
This is what I'm forced into,
After
But
Switzerland.
that's the formation of offensively, because defensively they were playing at 4 at the back before.
Yeah, but look at personnel here. Obviously, Palmer comes on. Obviously, Eze as well, who clearly likes.
And just when they scored, and didn't concede any goals. So
that's only going to happen.
Yes, exactly. That's too vulnerable. That is.
That's
for me.
only going to happen when there's desperation.
Yeah.
Or changes absolutely have to be made. And we know he's going to revert back probably to something similar in the semi-final. Look, Deschamps and Southgate are kind of similar in that respect, with their philosophy of not really caring too much about the entertainment side of it and more about results, which is fine. In France, I've had much more success doing it that way. But you couldn't really see these two guys managing week in, week out at big clubs, could you? You couldn't really see it.
Deschamps did Juventus and Marseille. He became champion of France. I think he saved Juventus as well. He worked very hard. But the same football, that was very defensive as well.
Well, Southgate was at Middlesbrough. And, but what I'm saying is, it's international football kind of suits them because
you can be safe.
You can be safe like this because you're not playing like this every week or 2 times a week. Well, the fans are coming along, every Saturday or Sunday and moaning like hell about the style of football. It's every couple of months or a big tournament, and you can play a bit more be a bit more stoic like this, and sometimes get away with it, which certainly both of these teams are at the moment. But
when you play like this, you have to bring the trophy home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's true.
You are just delaying the inevitable of getting knocked out and everybody just goes.
You've sold your entertainment.
Yeah,
sold
Well,
it.
it's a bit like Jose
So you
Mourinho.
have to win.
It's a bit like Mourinho
Yes.
and Conte when they were at Tottenham.
Yes.
Right? They've got these two great managers that came in, but then the style of play, and the fans would only buy it for a certain amount of time if there was success at the end of it.
It's what's going on with Deschamps.
Yes, because he's been successful.
He's forgiven for what he did because he's been successful.
Right.
But if you're not,
But how can England again be? How can Granit Xhaka, who was a very good player by the way, and he's had the season of his life at Leverkusen, but how can he be the guy that's getting on the ball all the time? Out of all the players in the midfield, he's getting on it, he's dropping deep, he's making play happen, he's driving forward. How can England let that? How can it not be Rice and Bellingham and not so much the youngster Mainu? But how can it not be them doing that? I mean, Xhaka and Freuler. Xhaka's a good player. Freuler couldn't get a game for Nottingham Forest.
was good, wasn't it?
He couldn't get a game for Nottingham Forest. He had to go elsewhere, right? He's a worker. He's a worker. He's a runner. He's an experienced player at international level. But how can England once again let that combination that Switzerland have, be the dominant figure in the middle of the park? Which I think more often than not, England in a little bit more possession.
But that also comes down to where he comes from, right? Because, I like what you said, because he was clearly dictating the tempo of the game, because he kept on dropping short and then, picking the ball up at the back line. But it was also because, sometimes, I don't know if England sometimes wants to wait also. They want to wait. And the moment when they are waiting, it gives him more time on the ball. Where he was picking up the ball, maybe they say he wasn't dangerous because he was far away from the goal, but they allow him to pick up the ball and dictate the tempo, the way they were playing. And I think that was one of the cases what I was watching, and I totally agree with you, because why can I not be one of the English players to do that? Why? Because the tactic of Switzerland was different. If you could see how they were trying to press them on and making sure that certain key players will not get on the ball, because that is sometimes what countries like, okay, I will not jump too far, but Turkey or Switzerland or Romania is doing. Those countries, they want to stop you from playing, but then it's up to you to make sure that you find also pockets where they cannot play. And I think that's where I say, when I talked about the risk, but I also talked about the control of the tempo. The moment when England doesn't control the tempo, it's a different game. We're watching totally different, because we have experience in playing in England, and English football is always the ones who are winning are the ones that are in control. The moment they're not in control, it becomes a different game.
It's a bit like England. Look, if England win this thing, it's a moot point, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It really is. It's a bit like the Roberto Martinez Ronaldo scenario and debate we had. If Portugal had gone on and win it, the Ronaldo debate is out the window. It doesn't matter, whether they carry them or not. It makes no difference. And I think from England's perspective, they won't really care at the end of it about who argues about their style, but they have to get to the end line. If you're playing this way, there has to be that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Otherwise, people will say, well, it was just too negative from the start to the finish.
A couple of positives for England. Penalty shootouts and this mystique that they're not good at them. It's kind of been put to bed a little bit over the last shootouts that we've seen, obviously. Back to Italy, the last one they've lost. You had 5 penalty shooters today who are all pretty much first choice. So it is a trend, obviously, because of Salah. But
he's taken many in finals. And
who all stepped up. We talked about Cole Palmer, and there wasn't really much doubt either, considering what we've seen from him. But a special word for Saka, considering what happened in the last final and the abuse and everything that happened towards him and Rashford, of course. But that was brilliant. You can't help but enjoy that moment.
Absolutely. Harry Kane goes off, but the best penalty taker around comes on, doesn't he? And Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
So he came on. You knew straight away he was going to take the penalties. England were littered with them, and lovely story for Bukayo Saka. He gets the equaliser. He had a really good game, and to banish all those awful things that happened to him after the last one.
From the outside in, I'm like, wow, that takes a lot of guts. Does it as a professional, or is it kind of betting on yourself?
Well, yes, it takes a lot of guts, but also at the back of your mind, the last penalty for England you missed, so you actually want to get it out of your system and take it again. I did it with Stuart Pearce in '96 when he missed in '90 when he blazed over when he missed against Germany, and he wanted to get it out. And when he scored in the quarter-final, the aggression that came out of him, and you knew he'd sort of banished demons, and in the semi-final he scored again. And that's what you have to do. And, you know, Bukayo Saka will be called on for the next 10 years of his career.
Yeah, you want to erase the memory of a negative image of yourself.
Yeah.
So you want to go back and say, I was a very good penalty taker and I missed one important one. So I'm going to prove to the world that that was an accident. And it's what he did. But it's true. You need guts. Can I talk about Tony?
I was just about to ask about Tony.
Oh, my God.
You've all taken penalties. How difficult is if you didn't say, he didn't look at the ball?
He never looked at the ball. He looked at the goalkeeper and was straight up. And I say, well, how can he do that without not thinking, ooh, what's going to happen if I miss the ball? Because I don't know where the ball is. And at a certain point, and we saw that with some other players, that Shaqiri, he went up and at the last moment went down to look at the ball. Tony never looked down and said, well, and you know, he's
How
not
difficult is that?
That's absolutely
Eric Cantona used to do it.
Yeah.
And it takes.
I'm not sure about but he did.
He did in the '94 FA Cup final. I was on the pitch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he did once though. but that's amazing for me because I said if he misses the ball, what's going to happen? Because he can't come back because that's one of the rules.
Yeah, if you feign it, obviously.
You feign and it's over.
Yeah.
But that was really.
What got me was all the shot run-ups.
But Frank.
Yeah.
Go on, Mario.
You know what I felt also in the penalties. You could also see which player is very confident. I love that. I love watching that. You know, like the way they stepped up to the ball. It says more than just the skill, right? How the guys highlight it, you understand, and clearly, you know, them talking about it because they have the experience. But also for me, it's like even if you're an outsider, like you're watching it, and even if, of course, when I was playing, I've seen enough guys taking it, and I took myself. But I'm just saying, like, the confidence they have. Look the way Bellingham walked up to that ball. It was like pure power and sure about himself. Tony. Tony. Oh, this is like, you know, like I feel like sometimes we talk about football, right? But these are moments where everybody has to understand this is not a moment you can just quickly do. This is you either got it.
So that leads me to the obvious question. If they're so confident taking penalties, why are they so scared to make mistakes in open play?
Tony came on as a sub. Trent Alexander-Arnold came on as a sub. Cole Palmer came on as a sub. Saka and Bellingham are probably the most confident.
They're not confident. I shot 54 penalties in my career.
Yes.
I always had doubts inside my brain. And I tell you, they had question marks because they don't know.
But the three of the penalty takers came on as sub. And we're excellent. Well, Tony came on with a couple of minutes ago. Trent came on. Not as far. Cole Palmer came on when they scored the goal. So actually, they were involved in England's best part of the game, to be honest. And Bellingham and Saka had decent games. So you could see why those people were chosen.
But what got me was the way that, not them all, but most of them, and Trent Alexander-Arnold slowed his at the end, but I kind of thought he was going to do that. He's a great striker of the ball, which most of them are. But what got me was at this stage, quarter-final for your country, how they were coming up and waiting for the keeper, some of them, to make that move and just stroking it, not even in the corner. Trust me, I'm having a 40-yard run-up. By the time I get to the ball, I've got oxygen and the laces are going through it. Because and when you say confidence, once it goes in the net, you're the most confident person in the world.
But
trust me, you understand. You understand when you're playing in a major championship like this, that the implications of making a mistake in the game, but when it gets to this stage, the keeper choosing the right way or just not quite connecting with your penalty or being hesitant means you're going to arguably cost your country a place, which Akanji did for Switzerland. And he was excellent during the game. I mean, he marshalled that back line like he has done for Man City. But the pressure that was on them all, but particularly Bukayo Saka, was being immense because the abuse he got, and Jadon Sancho, and a lot of it was racial, out with the football side of it, because everybody can miss a bit. But the abuse he got for that miss was just disgraceful. And so in his mind, he's stepping up, and although he's confident and he's scored the goal that's kept him in it, he's thinking, please don't let me be the man. And I bet he's bottom dollar, all his family at the game and back home are even worse, thinking, please, God, just let this guy get it over the line.
You know what? I think before the penalty and after the penalty, it's an acting behavior. Really, when you want to show to the goalkeeper that you are confident, you want to show to the fans that nothing can happen to you, then you shoot it and you say, oh my God, you know, and you score. Yeah, easy, of course. See, Jude Bellingham, I can tell you, before the penalty and after, there is acting behavior. Yeah, guys, I did it.
But we talked,
you have doubts? Nah,
yesterday we talked about who he might drop and who he might leave out, and we thought Saka. We ended up.
Nobody.
The darts all fell at the same. Same team. And we thought maybe Saka with Foden moving and with Foden's big game experience, Champions League, Premier League, got them over the line, has helped get City over the line. But actually, he hasn't really showed up, has he? And, it's Saka has been the guy today who's stepped up big time, both in real time with the goal and with the penalty, and during the game he gave the left wing back a terrible time. And they had to double up on him. So it was actually him, to be fair.
So what's the team for the semi-final?
I'll tell you what, let's talk about that when we look ahead to the semi-final. We'll discuss that. We've got a couple of days to discuss that. I imagine, let's take a look at I haven't seen his back page. I imagine Saka is the one. Semi-sation, semi-gods, Alexander the Great, raw power, heaven. It's interesting. Trent actually has gone. Obviously, seems to have more. I suppose his name is easier to use for headlines as opposed to Saka. So you can have Trent and the Great.
Alexander the Great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's not a discussion we're having.
Yeah, it's very
okay.
Nice.
Be sure to check out our YouTube page. Go to ESPN FC. So Turkey would take the lead against the Dutch 10 minutes to go in the first half, but the Netherlands would improve in the second half. 2 quick goals would see them have a 2-1 advantage. They were hanging on in the end, but in the end, the Dutch then setting up that semi-final with England. This was Mario's reaction when the Dutch got their second.
Look at it. I cannot believe it.
Mario!
Very nice.
You go very hard. Dogs in the neighbourhood are running towards you.
I thought it was an airplane taking off.
No! You know why? Because, like, outside is so quiet, and then when the game was finished, they started lighting up those fireworks, man, in our country. I was like, wow, everybody's on it. Everybody's watching the game. And I'm just telling them, please, take your time. We're not at the final yet. Let us get there slowly, because we got a big giant in front of us now. And I know England is knocking on the door. And I said it before, this is the game I wanted. I want Holland to play England. I always enjoyed playing them. Why? Because when you play in that country for so long, and then you're going to face them, oh, man, this is the game you want.
Mario, we'll talk about the semi-final in a moment. Let's reflect on that victory against Turkey. Obviously, it took maybe Vegas coming on in the second half to cause that chaos in the Turkish defence. But even when you went 2-1 up, you were still made to sweat. Big save at the end to make sure you went through.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, we had a situation, of course. Van der Ven came on too, and I think he made a hell of a difference, because sometimes I was worried. Why I was worried? Because, look, we've been in situations where it was very crucial, and sometimes we got tested. And I always say that. It's almost like we turn up later on. When the fight is on, we become boys. And today was one of those things where I saw the Dutch boys really stepping up and going for it and being strong and tough about it. Like even Van Dijk got questioned sometimes, you understand, in situation, because Yilmaz was one of the most dangerous players for Turkey. But he was also being tested, and you could see they were picking up yellow cards. And normally they would let it go and let it slide, but they were just going after it. And I felt like, at the back, and then, of course, the Fry and Van Dijk, they were struggling in the beginning, but then you see him scoring a goal, and then we go back, and then the battle is on. Sometimes you play games, right? And I'm sure the guy's been there, and you're under pressure, but something tells you, I can win this one. And I have to be honest, when I was watching it, I maybe didn't have that feeling, but I mean, I have played games, and Frank, I've played enough games with you where I was like, oh my God, please. And we played against, Stevie's team, and we won. For example, a big game was Chelsea-Liverpool. I did not think we were going to beat them, but you just have that belief. And I think this was Holland went through. The belief was there.
It was a much improved Holland, certainly in the second half.
It was a great game, albeit you said it was going to be awful.
The only games that have been awful are France and England.
Turkey were excellent in the first half. They go in the lead, and then they inexplicably start to drop and let the Netherlands control the game. And then you always felt that the Netherlands were going to score, and once they scored one, they were going to score two. But as soon as they got the second, then the Netherlands just dropped deep and let Turkey have the ball back, and let Turkey just make chance after chance after chance. And it's funny in football that, you know, psychologically, you just start to defend your own goal. You protect what you have rather than go, you know what, let's go and get the third and put this game to bed while we're on top. They suddenly start going, no, we'll make a substitution and we'll start to drop. So the game in the end was on a knife edge right to the last couple of minutes. And Turkey in the last 10 minutes were excellent again, but they just didn't show enough. It's as if they just ran out of steam a little bit. They just played in patches. You know, the crowd got behind them, they scored. And then once they went back to 2-1 behind, the crowd got behind them again. They had a really good goal, but Turkey had been excellent, but I think the best team won.
I think it's very interesting to see how it works. And you were talking about the psychological aspect of the game where the Netherlands, where they believed they could win. And they believed when they were 1-0 done. When they equalized and when they scored the second goal, they weren't believing anymore. They were hoping. They weren't believing anywhere. They were scared. They started to get scared, to get that Turkey could get back. And that's unbelievable to see how all human beings can pretend that they know what it is, but they still have doubts. And it's exactly what you see throughout a game, the fear, the hopes, the belief of a human being. That was exactly what we saw during that game.
The Dutch had no ideas in the first half, did they?
That was bad,
They really, I mean, to be fair, Yilmaz gave Van Dijk a problem in the first half with his movement and his pace in behind. That's a problem he's probably not going to have when he plays England. Because if it's Harry Kane, and you would imagine so, then he's not going to run away from him. But Yilmaz gave him that problem with his movement and his pace in behind, and ultimately Van Dijk got booked in the second half when he got done down the line. But you got to give the Dutch a lot of credit, because it looked as if that game was going to get away from them. But as Maka said, Turkey just ran out of steam. They got a second win at the end when it was desperation, and fair play to them. They threw the kitchen sink at it. But it's amazing. Maka was talking about it. That's the second day in a row where a team has run out of ideas and have said, right, get the big man on. Get the big man on. Let's get a bit of width in the game. Let's get some crosses in the box. Get midfielders in the box and pick on the second ball.
That's like Germany.
But as Mario said, who was the person today? It was Gakpo. Give the ball to Gakpo. Give the ball to Gakpo. And in the end, he gets things going. But fair play to the manager as well, Koeman. Half time off, Weghorst on. He wasn't waiting to 75th, 80 minute. He was 46 minutes. Right, you're on. We're struggling here. We need something. And he put the big man on, and if it went wrong, he probably could have had a lot of criticism. But it went right.
Hopefully the Dutch have got plenty of energy left.
Go on, Mario.
Easy now.
Because I tell you what, Mario, I've got a big one waiting for you if you don't.
Mario, he wants England and France out. He wants them out, this fella.
Frankie wants France out.
I want the Dutch ones to keep going. I want them to carry on.
Okay, let's take a look then at the bracket. Let's remind.
No.
I'm teeing it up. I promise, Mary. I'm teeing it up. Ready? Here it comes. Let's take a look at the bracket then. Just to confirm, Spain will take on France on Tuesday. It is then Netherlands against England on Wednesday. Who are the favourites, do you think, going into the Dutch-England game, Frank?
Well, all the bookies would say England.
Let's take a look at how the bookies then have things set going into that tie, considering what we've seen. And in fact, England are favourites. 3-2 on. You can more than double your money with the Dutch.
No, you can't.
Oh, yes, you can.
Oh, yeah, but not really. It's not 2-1. You are doubling it.
You're doubling your money, Mac. If I put $10 on, I win more than I win $23.
I'll give you a better price than that. Anybody ESPN.
But you do double your money, yeah? You're wrong.
Yeah, but not.
Yeah, right. Okay.
He used to be a bookie. And he will be again if he doesn't shut up.
Wait till Spain and France. Wait till you see the slap.
Wait, right.
2 odds on shots.
Shut up.
Okay,
right, Mario.
What do you want to say?
Do the Dutch see themselves as underdogs going into this time?
Yes, but they will definitely. Okay, I think if you compare it to what you know about England, you will say yes. But now the way England is playing, it might come closer to like it's a 50-50 thing. Why? Because England is not, they're not playing the football that we expect them to play. And then Holland is also, you know, it's up and down. Against Romania, they maybe gave an answer. Today, we saw a little bit less, but then they showed the fighting spirit that they hadn't proven yet. And I think now there was an answer to that. You know, what you guys already highlighted, okay, Weghorst, he brought him on, because sometimes people don't understand that when you play with the national team of Holland, we sometimes spend like a whole training session just to make sure the whole team knows when he is on, how we're going to play. And that is some of the things. But the key thing in this game was we had no outlet. Because when he's on, the outlets are finished, because you cannot play on pace anymore. It's difficult because you're going to have a player that's going to hold the ball up. But if you got 40 yards behind him, he's never going to be able to run in there. So I think that was one of the things why Turkey kept on pushing and Holland kept on dropping. And one of the key things what we don't want is dropping football. You know, like we are not, Dutchies are not good at when we have to drop back and defend in front of our goals. That's why we always try to play that football that everybody knows, and to making sure that we score goals instead of waiting. Because then
Mario, what's your prediction?
Ooh. Hey, I go for if the Dutch do this, what I show you, 2-1.
Mario, do you think would you start Weghorst?
No, I would not start him. No, I would never start him. No, that's not even an option for me. Brilliant. Because why? I'll tell you why. Because I don't think for 90 minutes he cannot deliver the best out of himself, what he will deliver for the 20 or the 30 minutes max that he will give the team and the things that he needs to do. If you play him 90 minutes, I'm telling you, Steve, he's not going to do the stuff what I
Okay, mate, that's good. You know more about him than I do.
Do you think the fact that many Dutch players play in the Premier League can be an X factor?
Maybe that's a conversation for another time, Frank.
Let's do that.
I would look forward to that. I'll put that in my note. But you
Like a day that him and I are off.
Are you here tomorrow?
No, but I will watch.
Oh, you're at Craig's house tomorrow. He's off as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that.
I tell you what, talk about it Monday. Monday's a quiet.
Monday's a quiet day as well.
I'm not in.
Mario, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you, Mario.
Much appreciated, man.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck on Wednesday. Just a reminder, Extra Time is always available on our YouTube channel. Be sure to go over there and check it out. I look short there. Speaking of short, hey, Seb, how you doing?
Oh, it's wonderful. Dan, I know it was a few minutes ago. Did Frank wiggle his hips when he said Shakira instead of Shakira? The hips don't lie.
He did. He went, the hips don't lie.
Yeah, he's had too many nights in West Hartford.
You would know about that, though, Seb.
No, nothing. Steady. You never know who's watching on these ESPN Plus Airways. Gentlemen, great to be with you. We got 2 quarterfinals to look forward to tonight, but why don't we start by looking back at the quarterfinal from last night, Venezuela and Canada down there at the home of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry's World. Game ended 1-1 in regulation. Of course, it goes straight to penalties, where Canada won 4-3. The goals in regulation from Jacob Schaffelberg, who was getting the start for the injured Tejan Buchanan, and Salomon Rondon. Joining us now, Alejandro Moreno. Ale, you were with us last night on Football Americas. You've had a night to sleep on it. Any further perspective on Venezuela's performance against Canada and their performance overall in the tournament?
I'll tell you what my perspective is. You can tell the producer that this is not therapeutic for me. Talking about it is not fun. Talking about it doesn't make me feel any better, right? No, getting it out there, getting it out of my system doesn't mean that Venezuela did any better than what I thought they did last night. So my thoughts are essentially the same as they were last night. It was disappointing because it was a wasted opportunity for Venezuela to make another run into a semifinal of a Copa America, and how significant that is to us as a nation, to us as a national team. So in that regard, yeah, sleeping on it hasn't helped. I'm still not exactly thriving, I would say that much. But I also think if we want to make this useful for the national team, for La Vinotinto, for Venezuela, you got to learn what this moment felt like. Because I got to tell you, this took me back to 2009 World Cup qualifiers. We're right there. We're close. We still have a chance. Game against Paraguay at home. We need to win that game to give ourselves the best opportunity to perhaps make it into the World Cup. And it was a similar feel to this game where the stadium is packed, the people are pushing you forward, and everything speeds up for you as a player. And you're at your best not only in football, but in any sport, when you're able to slow things down, when in your mind you have clear pictures that you've been able to slow down. And if you were able to take a still picture of the minds of most Venezuelan players last night, it's 1,000 images. There's a whole lot going on. There's a whole lot of busy minds that are trying to score 10 goals in one play. And maybe this experience allows a lot of these players, a lot of this young group of players, to know what that moment felt like. And when it comes to World Cup qualifiers and they're in the precipice of making the World Cup, hopefully they're able to handle that moment a whole lot better than what they did last night.
So this game obviously went to penalties. So did the first quarterfinal between Argentina and Ecuador. At the Copa America, they go straight from 90 to the penalties. Do you like it, Ali?
I do, specifically for this tournament, because, you know, with 6-7 games, it's a lot on the players to continuously have to play the extra 30 minutes. And so that just wears down, you know, players' bodies and is, you know, I think in this situation, it kind of prevents a little, less injury, because after those 90 minutes or 90 plus, you're really, you know, having to push through. And so I do think it's okay. And then for the final, to make it more exciting, to make it, you know, as realistic as it should be, to replicate any type of World Cup tournament, then yes, I think it's appropriate.
Then you want the extra time.
Yes.
Canada, how strong is their case right now for the best team in CONCACAF?
Stronger than it was before this tournament started. This Canadian team hadn't shown to be the same team that, quite frankly, dominated World Cup qualifying before the World Cup. What happened at the World Cup, albeit in a very, very strong group. Their group had a golden generation of Belgium and 2 semifinalists of that World Cup in their group, but it was not up to their standard. It was not up to what they have shown, and they crumbled in front of the whole world. And they're in this tournament because they qualified against Trinidad and Tobago. Not direct qualification. They had a playoff to get here. So this isn't the same Canadian team that we've seen before. In comes Jesse Marsch, and he completely changes the complexion of this team. Now, all of a sudden, there are similarities to what John Herdman had shown in Canada at their best. The way that they're able to run teams into the ground. Ali mentioned Venezuela would like to slow the game down. They would have loved to slow Canada down. They showed an intensity, a determination, a purpose in their football. That first half was as dominant as a performance, that I've seen Canada have at any time since that World Cup qualifier on. They were that good, but then they show you that there's still a lot of things they need to work out. They let, many times, Venezuela back into that game, and it went to penalty kicks. And honestly, penalty kicks, there's a lot of tactic, there's a lot of skill required, but it's still very much anybody's game. That said, this Canadian team, if they play like this, U.S. men's national team, Mexico, they've got their work cut out for them.
Best in CONCACAF, Casey?
I would say trending to best in CONCACAF. I think it is. It's the U.S. had a tough tournament. The U.S. had a tough tournament with a couple asterisks on it with the red card and different things. Canada did what they needed to do, and there's a lot of credit to any team in the world. Look, we just heard the guys being critical of France, being critical of England, but at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do to advance. And I say the U.S. didn't, and Canada did. And there's an art to that. There's a mentality to getting what is needed and to get that little bit extra when it's needed. Now, after the chances that Canada created and didn't take advantage of, the way they conceded the equalizing goal to Venezuela, they could have then just said, felt sorry for themselves. But no, they stepped up in the penalties and they won and they got through. And there's a mentality to that. And that's why I'd say that they're moving in a much more positive direction.
Canada came out of Group A, Venezuela out of Group B. Production wants us to look at Group C. Why? Because that's where the U.S. finished up third, and of course were eliminated from this competition in the group phase. Fox Sports reporting yesterday that the U.S. Soccer Federation will make an announcement next week pertaining to Greg Berhalter's status moving forward. Given that report, you think he'll be back?
No, I don't think Greg Berhalter is going to be back. This is eerily similar, and you've mentioned it very many times, of what happened to Vlatko Andonovski, the women's coach, post that World Cup fiasco, and the statement released by U.S. Soccer was very similar. The timing of when their decision would be made is very similar. I've not seen this type of outrage. I've not seen the fans so angry. The pundits so much giving so much attention to this since they failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2018. I think the writing's on the wall. I think they're just dotting the I's and, you know, crossing the T's and maybe legalities until it gets announced.
Seb, I know you're a big conspiracy theorist.
Who?
Yes, I know. but let's say there's a delay, because there's a delay to see, does Uruguay beat Brazil? Does Panama beat Colombia?
You think that matters?
And then it doesn't. Well, I think perception is always a big in anything. And if the teams that you lost to beat the likes of Brazil and Colombia in the tournament, it takes a little weight off.
What about if a
the
team
results.
with the guy you?
I'm saying conspiracy.
Canada
I'm not
in a tougher
necessarily
group with the
believing-
guy that you
I'm
said
not-
no to.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. If you're looking at things, why not then just very quickly go, he's our guy, he's not our guy. I always think, is there reasons for it? Is it a reason that they're waiting to see if results help lessen a blow or help push them in a different direction?
Now that you've been around coaching changes with the national team, what's your sense on this one?
I just think the results aren't good enough. The expectation was to get out of the group, and you didn't complete the task, and therefore you have to go. The expectations need to be higher. The standards have to be higher, not just for the players, but for the coaching staff as well.
If I may really quickly, it's not just about Copa America. I think that's what people are missing here. It's not just this result. You didn't get out of the group. This is one of many for Greg Berhalter, and quite frankly, a regression that we've seen since he came back from that 2022 World Cup.
Let's bring it back to Copa America, because we do have two quarterfinals tonight. Panama taking on Colombia, Uruguay taking on Brazil. That's the other side of the bracket from where Argentina and Canada will meet in their semifinal. Uruguay against Brazil is the game we're going to focus on because that's where our Alexis Nunez is. She's in Las Vegas. Where, Alexis, I'm assuming it's going to be an overwhelming majority of Brazilian fans. What are they saying, and how are they feeling about this team, having watched them win just once out of the 3 games so far in this tournament?
Yes, Abby. Well, if you're Uruguay, you're definitely sitting pretty full of confidence because La Celeste have been perfect under Marcelo Bielsa in this Copa America. But if you're Brazil, what we've learned is that there's a lot of apprehension surrounding this team, especially going into this match, which Rafinha yesterday told us he calls it a super clásico of South America. They know exactly the pedigree of their neighbors, Uruguay. And for the first time in a long time, they find themselves in this unfamiliar position of not being overwhelming favorites or even slight favorites going into this one. Rafinha actually said to us in the media yesterday at the presser that he knows that all of us journalists have this Brazil as, and I quote, dead. He says, we know that you guys have written us off, that you think that Uruguay are going to get through this one really easily. But I want to remind you that we are Brazil. And just because there have been player changes and coaching changes, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be an easy one. And Uruguay knows that. But the truth is, there is still a lot of apprehension because everyone's trying to figure out, what is this Brazil? What's the true identity of this Brazil under Dorival Jr. since he took over in January? They played 7 internationals, and he's actually drawn majority of them. They've won only 2. Yes, they are unbeaten, but too many draws, especially that one against the USA, which has left a bad taste in a lot of the mouths of anyone who's associated with Brazil. They didn't like the fact that they not necessarily struggled against Costa Rica, but could not find that goal or that commanding performance. And then, of course, get from an advantage against Colombia, who we know have been looking like one of the best teams in this entire tournament, but then throw it away again and fail to top the group, which Brazil were favorites to do so. Now Brazil in a very nervous situation going into this super clásico, as Rafinha calls it. But as he says, they are Brazil. They do know how to win, but they're going to have to do it without a massive piece in Vini Jr.
You mentioned that, Alexis. He's obviously suspended for tonight's game. What's the latest on the plan to replace him?
Well, that was the first question that Dorival had to answer yesterday in the press conference, and he said immediately it is going to be the 17-year-old Endrick, who is Real Madrid bound, along with Rodrigo and as well as Rafinha in that attack. And this is the favorite that everyone was kind of hoping for, because look, he is such a special player, but the truth is he is still only 17 years old. In this Copa America alone, he's only played 34 minutes in the last 3 games. 34 minutes. And now he has to replace Vini Jr., who not just is one of Brazil's best players, if not the best player on the pitch, but all of the players talked about it. The thing with Vini is that he has such an aura about him. No other player, especially with Neymar injured, has that aura on this Brazil squad. He's the one that gets the fans revved up when they're falling behind. He's the one that drags the players. And now here's Endrick with only 9 international caps for Brazil, and he's going to have to be not one of the best players on the pitch, but that dude 100%. But look, he's someone that everyone has a lot of respect for. And I think Dorival had to answer so many questions about Endrick. Again, the Brazilian media just still a lot of apprehension with them as it goes into this match. And he kind of got a little defensive towards the end and said, look, I chose this team and I chose these players with certain and specific opportunities in mind. He's like, everything that's happened, it's a scenario that I've already had in my head. So if I put Endrick out there, is because at one point I saw that he would have to replace Vini Jr. And now this is the moment. So he said, we've lost a massive player and a special player in Vini Jr., but now this is an opportunity for a young man to really, really shine.
Alexis Nunes, great stuff as always. Stay cool out there in Las Vegas. Ale, last night on Football America, everybody here on the desk picked Uruguay to beat Brazil. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. And because we have to evaluate Brazil from what we have seen from them and not what we have seen over the last few months, which hasn't been all that great, but what we have seen over the last 10 days, over the last couple of weeks, which has been even worse. And so there is no reason to truly believe that Brazil all of a sudden are going to be dynamic and explosive and dominate possession in the midfield and be explosive in the final third, because we haven't seen any evidence of that besides the game against Paraguay, and that was in moments. And so I look at a team that, while Rafinha may say that they're not dead, Morto, I imagine is what he was referring to. Well, they got to give us signs of life. He's got to give us signs of life. Brazil got to give us signs of life. They got to let us know that indeed this is a team that is alive and well in the attacking half. And so what I would say about Endrick is we don't know exactly what his performance will be like, but we know he's going to run. We know that he's going to stretch the back line. We know that he's going to try to get in behind, which nobody else really does for this team. And then Rodrigo is actually going to go to his more natural position on the left-hand side, which is usually taken by Vini Jr. And some of the best performances that Rodrigo has had at Real Madrid have happened when Vini Jr. has been injured and Rodrigo has been coming from the left-hand side. Now, having said all of that, let's say that they are dynamic and explosive in the attack. They're still going to need a whole lot more out of the midfield. And that's the area where I think Uruguay can take full advantage. This midfield of Brazil, nope, not very good offensively. Defensively, I think they give up too much space because you have guys that are not really used to defending. Lucas Paquetá doesn't really want to defend, and when he tries to, he's out of position. Joao Gomez, he will get behind the ball and he will foul, but he's not a playmaker. And then there is Bruno Guimaraes, who thinks, well, maybe I can complete a pass because that's what I like to do, but now I have to be pushed back because defensively we're not controlling the midfield. I just don't like the makeup of Brazil. I don't like the balance of the team. And as compared to Uruguay, yeah, I agree with everybody else over there. Uruguay, I think, win it 2-1.
Alex says 2-1 for Uruguay against Brazil. Score prediction?
I'll go 2-0. I really think Wendell, Danilo, whoever's in the outside back position are really going to suffer with the way Uruguay attacks those flanks.
Wow. Okay, there we have it. Everybody's saying Uruguay to win. Never in the history of this show has the opposite happened. I'm just saying, you're going to have to join us tonight following the Uruguay-Brazil match. We'll be talking about that game as well as Panama against Colombia, which is just a few short minutes away from kicking off. Should be live right around 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. out on the East Coast, which is where we find our good friends out in Connecticut. Dan, we're all very happy for England over here. Very happy for you.
Are you saying that through gritted teeth? What do you care? What's wrong with you?
I just like to see you suffer, you know.
His primo had some money on it.
Do you think if we play a 4 against 4 against those guys, we win?
I think I'd have to go
chance. No chance. Frank, we would wipe the floor with you.
Frank, how many World Cups you win over
good
there?
at football.
I just want to win too.
Yeah, we'll do it. Frankie, we'll do it, but Dan has to be in goal.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
We'll play.
Semi won't get the ball.
We'd rather play with 3 than have Dan in our team.
Bye. right then. Elsewhere, there's been a lot of outrage over what happened in the Germany-Spain game regarding whether a penalty should have been awarded or not. Cucurella definitely handballed. There's no doubt there. His hand definitely struck the ball. It wasn't a penalty. And this is what Nagelsmann had to say. It's not possible in football if someone shoots into the stands and it hits a hand, it's never a penalty. But when the ball is clearly going towards goal and it's a hand, you can't talk about intention. You have to see what the shot is aimed. We have 50 robots bring us coffee, so there should be an AI calculation across his shots where they're going. It's quite simple. We should really assess where the shot is going, but that is not the only reason we lost the game. What do you think, Craig?
Nonsense.
Does it make a difference because it was going on target?
No, he wasn't going on target for me. He was going outside. That's why I don't understand his comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just going outside.
Right.
I think Germany are out.
Bye.
I think they're out.
Yes, they are out.
I think they're out, and I think it wasn't a penalty, and I can see why. And Mark Clattenburg on the live game, as it was, come on and, dare I say it, very eloquently explained the directives before this competition started to the group of officials that are refereeing in this competition.
Just because it's been directives, should there be some sort of AI interpretation? If a goal is going on target, if a ball
why don't we get R2D2 walking around the field going, penalty. I mean, seriously, come on.
Exactly.
It's, we're playing a sport where there's still human error and subjectivity.
Yeah.
And we have to be very careful here.
Yeah, you're right.
At the end of the day, it was a great game.
Yeah.
Spain was slightly the better side. And I don't think Cucurella was... His arm out here, if his arm had been out here and it hadn't been given, or up here, I can fully understand.
Everybody would have agreed that it's not a penalty.
Not a penalty.
So why they change the rule? It's even worse now.
Oh, the good old
You're right.
days.
Yeah, the old guy. Yes.
Oh, good old
Yes.
days. Eh?
People interfering.
Kick people,
Frank,
just for the sake of
Can
it.
you imagine
IFAB interfering again in this game?
we've got enough people whining and moaning about the VAR and how long it takes, and now we want more.
But AI will be automatic.
We've got what we got in the ball, the snickometer.
The stick on.
They give a penalty kick if it just nips off somebody's fingernails.
Okay, away from AI and penalties, there's been a lot of talk about Kylian Mbappe, of course, and his no-show really in the quarterfinals. He, of course, was taken off at half-time in extra time. He came out and spoke about it, saying, well, at the end of normal time, we'd already spoken to the coach. We decided to give it a go. But at half-time, I told him I wasn't feeling it anymore, that I was too tired. I think you have to get over that. When you're captain, you have to, above all, always stay involved and be there for your teammates. Deschamps also addressed it, saying, I saw him struggling during the first period of extra time. It was pointless to leave him on. Kylian has always been honest with me and the group, so it's only natural to bring some new blood. He's tired, obviously. Muscularly is easy.
Whoa, a terrible word.
It's not easy with everything he's been through and all the effects that he's put in. He knows that he's not at the top of his form.
Well, it's not only that he struggled during the extra time. I think he's been struggling for a while. And because of his injury, he has an excuse. But before that, he was struggling with Paris Saint-Germain as well. In the Champions League, we saw that. So it's not the Mbappe that we have seen, I would say, before the end of the season. But because of his injury, and I said yesterday that I can make a statement, I think he's not capable of playing at the top level. So whether he should play or not is not my...
Any problem with him asking to be taken off?
Oh, no.
No, I don't think so.
No. Those statements are absolutely fine.
Right.
Yeah. People on the bench, you've got a squad of 24. You have to be able to call on everybody at any given time. He came off for his notes.
For the best of everybody, right now he shouldn't play.
The main thing the main thing he has to play better.
That's quite a big statement.
Yeah, he said it is a big statement because it doesn't
He shouldn't play against Spain.
No, for me, what I mean is he's not at 100%. He's maybe at 50, 60% of his possibility because of the mask, because of his injury and everything. So if he's not at the top, it's not the Mbappe that we are expecting. So therefore, for him, And for the national team, he shouldn't play because he doesn't serve the country and the team like he should do. And it's not even his fault. He's injured. He has a broken nose. He has a problem with the mask. He shouldn't play.
Yeah, lots of people. Sorry, Stevie. There's been, hundreds of players have played with a broken nose.
Right.
And wearing a mask is certainly not ideal. Right. It has to affect.
Yes.
And it doesn't affect your fitness, but it has to affect your vision. So Heung-min Son at Tottenham last year had a cheek injury, I believe. And in one of the games, he just ripped it off and thought, sod this, I can't, it's just affecting me. But the nose, the respiration issue, if there is one, has to be affecting him because he can't, if he's coming off because he's tired, he didn't do enough in the game to be tired. Let's be honest about it. He wasn't working his socks off. He wasn't up and down the channel. He wasn't running around willy-nilly. So if he's tired, he must have an issue with his breathing. Because there was no other way for him to be tired in the game because he wasn't really.
No, I think it's a breathing issue on top of a vision issue, and therefore, again, it's not against Mbappe. I have nothing against Mbappe. Mbappe, 100%, he should play. I'm the first fan, and you have been criticized by you and some others say stop defending Mbappe. I think I love the player. I really love the player. He's a fantastic player.
You just wouldn't play him.
But he cannot play right now.
So listen, we don't really know what his issue is, whether it's vision.
Well, we see the effect of
whether
it.
it's respiration, whether he can play without his mask and just put some tape on. But I think the mask is hindering him a lot. To be very honest, it's thick. You can see the size of it. It's black, of course. You think if it was perspex and clear, it would be better. But he must have a problem with it. He must have a problem with it. And I don't know how bad his nose is. I honestly don't know. I actually don't know if he has problems breathing. But I'd take the chance of just putting some heavy-duty tape or whatever you need over it and playing without it. It's the semi-final of this trophy. They're going to go out to Spain if he plays like he has been playing.
Yeah.
And do you take a chance? As I said, we're not doctors. We don't know the inside story about his nose and how problematic it is. But they need him 100% back to the Kylian Mbappe who we know and love and who's going to be the world's best player. Otherwise, Spain are having them.
But the cynic in me.
Oh, what? There's no cynic in you, Craig.
It doesn't exist.
No.
It doesn't exist.
No.
Surely not.
Well, he comes off. He's not having much of an effect in the game. He's got this sort of ready-made excuse that if he's not playing well, he comes off, he's struggling. They agree. Manager and player agree, that's fine. But he wasn't struggling that much when the French went through. And he was, if you watch the after-match scenes, he was jumping about like a...
Yeah, but he wasn't wearing his mask.
He was jumping around. Well, he's not. Listen, you don't just take a mask off and you're all of a sudden, oh, this is great.
Maybe that's secret.
So he's jumping about like a young kid celebrating, like there's nothing wrong with him.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think there's a little bit in there of looking for the sympathy vote here.
Yeah, we should as Batman, maybe.
So what do France do?
We'll talk about that another time, shall we?
Tell you what, talk about it Monday. Talk about it Monday. Sorry.
He's off Monday.
Hold on.
He's off Monday.
Schoolboy error.
I'm off on Monday too. So.
That was a schoolboy error.
He can't be off on Monday if France is the next day.
It's France.
No, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, but we need you to look ahead.
Yeah, but we need you.
Oh, no, come on.
We've got to get you in now, Frank. That's it.
Yeah, you're in Monday.
Frank's not on. Tomorrow it will be former Liverpool players dominating the studio, Macca and Stevie.
Love it.
I was going to stock cows.
Scottish.
If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to switch over now to ESPN Plus.